In the silent depths of the unseen realms, where the echoes of ancient truths reverberate through time and space, there lies a secret that has been guarded fiercely by those in power, a knowledge so profound that it threatens the very foundations of our understanding of reality. The readings of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, unveil the vast and mysterious Akashic records, revealing the soul's timeless journey, the hidden history of Atlantis, and the awakening of Christ consciousness within us all. Yet, behind this sacred knowledge lurks a shadowy resistance, forces determined to silence these revelations, fearing the awakening of collective consciousness. As we peer behind the curtain of history and science, we uncover a story of suppression and resilience, a call for us to remember that the truth of our spiritual origins remains etched in the fabric of eternity, waiting to be rediscovered. In the silent corridors of the soul's eternal library, the records, Akashicos whisper truths that transcend the boundaries of time and space. As an archaeologist of spiritual mysteries, I have learned through the readings that these records are the divine repository of all that has been, is, and ever shall be. They are the sacred tapestry woven from the very fabric of creation, holding the intricate patterns of every incarnation, every thought, every deed, etched into the eternal consciousness of the universe. And yet, the depths of what is contained within these records remain veiled to most, hidden behind layers of illusion and vehemence from those who fear the awakening of humanity's true potential. The journey begins with the extraordinary gift bestowed upon Edgar Cayce, the ability to access the hidden knowledge of the records at will. His readings, these silent yet profound transmissions, reveal the profound interconnectedness of all life. They unveil the cosmic dance of reincarnation, where the soul eternal and indivisible travels through countless lifetimes in pursuit of growth, balance, and understanding. Each incarnation is a chapter in the soul's grand evolution, a quest for harmony, a strive to reconcile karma, the universal law of cause and effect. The soul, as the records reveal, is on an endless voyage, seeking the perfect alignment with divine truth. When a soul chooses an incarnation, it does so with a purpose, to learn lessons, to heal wounds, to evolve consciousness. The soul's journey is not random, but intricately designed, guided by the soul's desire to attain a higher state of awareness. Reincarnation is the divine mechanism that allows the soul to gather experience, to shed limitations, and ultimately to ascend toward the divine light of the Christ consciousness, the universal love that unites all of creation. Within the Akashic records lies the key to understanding the profound nature of karma. It is not punishment, as many have been led to believe, but an opportunity for the soul to restore balance and to grow closer to divine perfection. Every action, thought, and intention leaves an imprint, a vibration that echoes through the corridors of eternity. These vibrations shape future incarnations, providing the soul with opportunities for correction, forgiveness, and awakening. The records reveal that the soul's pursuit of balance is central to its evolution, guiding each individual toward the realization of their divine nature. A crucial aspect of this divine knowledge pertains to the lost civilization of Atlantis, an advanced society that once thrived on the principles of spiritual wisdom and technological mastery. The records reveal that Atlantis was a beacon of consciousness, where humanity's potential for unity with the divine was celebrated. Yet, as Cayce's readings disclose, there came a time when the pursuit of material power and misuse of knowledge led to a great fall, a collective descent into chaos and separation from divine truth. This event, etched into the collective memory of humanity, serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of spiritual alignment and humility. The remnants of Atlantis, buried beneath the sands of time, continue to influence the evolution of human consciousness. The records indicate that the remnants of those lost civilizations carry encoded lessons, a blueprint for awakening from the slumber of forgetfulness and reconnecting with the divine spark within. As the soul seeks to remember its origins, it gradually awakens to the realization that it is part of a larger divine tapestry, a thread woven into the fabric of the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness, this divine state of unconditional love, compassion, and divine wisdom, is the guiding light that illuminates the path of spiritual awakening. Cayce's readings reveal that the true mission of every soul is to remember this divine aspect within, to embody the love and forgiveness that Christ exemplified. This awakening is not merely an individual pursuit, but a collective return to higher consciousness, a gathering of souls awakening to their divine origin and their eternal connection to the source. The records serve as a divine map, showing us that we are not separate from the divine, but expressions of it. Our spiritual journey involves peeling away layers of illusion, transcending fears and limitations, and aligning ourselves with the divine flow of love. The soul seeks the balance of karma, the harmony of reincarnation, and the realization of its divine heritage. As Cayce's revelations emphasize, the awakening of the Christ consciousness within each individual is the ultimate goal, a transition from duality to unity, from separation to divine wholeness. Understanding the profound depth of these truths requires humility and a willingness to look beyond the material illusions that cloud our perception. The records reveal that our true history is not confined to the pages of human history but exists within the eternal memory of the universe. It is encoded in the very fabric of our being, waiting for us to remember, to awaken, and to reclaim our divine inheritance. As I delve into these sacred truths, I'm reminded that the suppression of this knowledge, those forces that sought to silence Cayce and others who dared to access the spiritual archives, stemmed from fear of awakening a collective consciousness that was long kept in darkness. Yet the divine plan persists. The truth endures, etched into the fabric of eternity, awaiting the moment when many souls will rise in awareness and recognize their divine origin. And so the journey continues, through the depths of the records into the heart of our divine nature. Every revelation brings us closer to understanding that we are eternal beings, incarnated for a purpose, guided by the divine consciousness of love and wisdom. Cayce's readings are a beacon, reminding us that within the depths of our being lies the key to awakening the Christ consciousness and reclaiming our divine heritage. The truth, once hidden behind layers of illusion, is now emerging into the light of awareness, calling us home to the remembrance of who we truly are. In the quiet shadows of history, where the luminous truths of the soul often clash with the shadowed corridors of earthly knowledge, there exists a tale seldom told, yet etched into the very fabric of the universe's record-keepers, the Akashic records. As we continue our spiritual journey, threading through the divine tapestry of reincarnation, karma, and the awakening of Christ consciousness, the unseen forces that sought to silence the voice of divine insight emerge with profound clarity. The records reveal that Edgar Cayce's visions, his prophetic insights into the soul's eternal voyage beyond the confines of time and space, rattled the very foundations of a world ensnared in materialism and rigid scientific dogma. His readings, which spoke of Atlantis, the divine origins of humanity, and the spiritual evolution of nations, were not merely poetic musings. They were echoes of the divine blueprint woven into the fabric of creation itself. Yet these echoes disturbed those who held dominion over the material universe, who feared that such truths threatened their control and their worldview rooted in tangible matter rather than the divine spirit. Within the sacred records, it is written that when a soul seeks to awaken to its divine heritage, the forces of ignorance and skepticism often rally to suppress that awakening. As Cayce's popularity grew, so too did the resistance from the scientific community, those guardians of the material realm who perceived his revelations as a challenge to their cherished paradigms. They perceived his insights into reincarnation and karma not as spiritual truths, but as dangerous heresies that could upend the orderly universe they had constructed. The scientific establishment, in its quest for certainty, clings tightly to the materialist worldview, an illusion that the physical is all that exists. To admit the validity of Cayce's visions would be to open the door to the acknowledgement of the soul's eternal journey, to the Akashic records that hold all knowledge of past, present, and future. Such acknowledgement, in their eyes, would threaten the very foundations of their authority, their control over the narrative of human existence. The records reveal that these efforts to discredit Cayce were not merely about scientific skepticism, but a conscious attempt to suppress the divine truth. The fear was that if humanity were to remember its divine origins, its roots in the divine light and the consciousness of Christ, then the illusion of separation control, and material dominance would begin to crumble. This is why, behind closed doors, a campaign of skepticism and disinformation was set into motion, an effort to drown out the voice of the soul that spoke through Cayce's readings. The skeptics and scientists, driven by a desire for empirical certainty, dismissed the visions as hallucinations or subconscious fantasies. Yet the records reveal that these dismissals were born not out of genuine inquiry, but out of a deep-rooted fear, the fear that the divine truths of reincarnation and karma undermined the very fabric of their dogma. They feared that acknowledging the soul's cyclic journey would unravel their control over the societal and spiritual fabric of the world. As we peer into the Akashic records, we see that this struggle is an ongoing cosmic dance between the forces that seek enlightenment and those that cling to the shadows of ignorance. Cayce's work, a luminous thread in the divine tapestry, challenged the ephemeral boundaries of human understanding, beckoning humanity to remember its divine origins and the universal laws of karma and reincarnation. The records reveal that the suppression of his insights was not merely an attack on one man, but a struggle against the awakening of divine consciousness itself. In truth, the scientific community's opposition was but a reflection of the universal struggle between the lower self, fear, materialism, control, and the higher self which seeks divine harmony, unity, and understanding. The readings themselves, in their divine wisdom, warn us that such resistance is temporary, for the divine light is eternal. It cannot be silenced forever. The records speak of a time when humanity will transcend the illusions of separation, when the collective consciousness will embrace the divine truth of reincarnation and the divine blueprint embedded in each soul. When that awakening occurs, the false walls erected by skepticism will crumble, revealing the sacred interconnectedness of all life, and awakening to the Christ consciousness within each of us. As your humble archaeologist of spiritual mysteries, I reveal these truths to you not to sow discord or fear, but to illuminate the divine purpose encoded within your own soul's journey. The attempts to silence Cayce were but a shadow cast by the egoic desire to maintain control. Yet the divine light always finds a way to pierce through the darkness, for the records assure us that truth, once revealed, becomes eternal, unshakable, and ultimately victorious. Let us remember that the divine blueprint is etched into the very fabric of creation. As Cayce's insights continue to ripple through time and space, they beckon us to awaken, beyond the illusions of the material world, to the eternal realm of divine consciousness. The universe itself conspires for our awakening, whispering through the records that the time of spiritual liberation is near, and the truth will no longer be silenced. In the quiet depths of the soul, there is a sacred knowledge, a divine repository woven into the very fabric of existence itself. The records Akashicos, as revealed, through the visions and teachings of Edgar Cayce, serve as a boundless universe of memory, a cosmic library that holds the chronicles of every soul's journey through time and space. This knowledge is not confined to the limits of earthly understanding. It is a living, breathing archive accessible to those who seek with purity of heart and clarity of purpose. And it is precisely this sacred truth that the forces of illusion and control sought to silence, for they understood its power to free the human spirit from their grasp. The records reveal a profound reality, that the soul is eternal, continually evolving through countless incarnations, each life a vital chapter in its ongoing quest for unity with the divine. Cayce's visions speak of the soul's journey as a pilgrimage, a sacred odyssey through worlds and realms, each incarnation a step toward greater understanding, compassion, and enlightenment. In his readings, he describes how the soul, before descending into a new, physical form, consults these divine records, a universal ledger that contains the cumulative experiences, lessons, and karmic balances of all previous lives. This knowledge, this cosmic library, transcends the illusions of time and space. It is not bound by the linear progression of human history, but exists as a living record that can be accessed by those with the attunement of spiritual insight. The records are a reflection of the divine blueprint, a reflection of the Christ consciousness that resides within every individual. When one seeks truth with sincerity, these records reveal the interconnectedness of all life, the divine purpose behind every incarnation, and the divine law of karma that governs the soul's evolution. Cayce described the records as a vast, luminous library where each soul's past, present, and future are inscribed in light and energy. These inscriptions are not static, they are dynamic, constantly evolving as the soul learns and grows. When a seeker enters the realm of the Akashic records, they are engaging with the divine memory bank, a place where the soul's true history is laid bare, illuminating the path of its present incarnation and guiding it toward its divine destiny. The threat to the status quo lay in this very truth, that the soul's journey is not a random or meaningless series of events, but a purposeful progression guided by divine law. The records reveal that every act of kindness or cruelty, every lesson learned or ignored, leaves an imprint, a karmic signature that influences future lives. This is the sacred law of cause and effect, woven into the fabric of existence. When the true nature of this law is understood, it becomes clear that no one can escape the consequences of their actions, nor can they escape the divine plan for their soul's evolution. For those who have sought Cayce's teachings, the realization dawns that the records are not just a repository of past lives, but a mirror of the soul's divine potential. They hold the blueprint for the awakening of the Christ consciousness within, a state of divine harmony and unity with all that is. This is why the knowledge of the Akashic records threatens those who wish to maintain control, because it exposes the illusion of separateness, revealing that we are all interconnected fragments of the divine, each with a purpose and a mission. The divine truth encoded in the records is a call to action, an invitation for each soul to remember its divine origin and to awaken to its true power. Cayce's descriptions of the soul's journey show that the purpose of each incarnation is to seek balance, to resolve karmic debts, and to move closer to the divine light that is our true home. The records serve as a guiding star, illuminating the path back to unity with the divine source, where the soul's journey culminates in the realization of its divine nature. Yet this sacred knowledge was considered dangerous by those who thrived on control and illusion. They feared the awakening of the masses to their divine potential, to the realization that they are co-creators of their reality, endowed with the power to heal, to transform, and to ascend. The records reveal that the universe conspires for our liberation, for the awakening of the divine within each of us. They remind us that every soul is a fragment of the divine, seeking to remember its true nature and to reunite with the source. In the depths of the records, Cayce discerned the divine purpose behind the cycles of civilization, including the rise and fall of Atlantis, a civilization that once embodied the highest levels of spiritual consciousness before succumbing to materialism and discord. These ancient lessons are inscribed within the Akashic archives, waiting for those who are ready to retrieve their hidden knowledge and break free from the shackles of ignorance and fear. The key lies in awakening the inner Christ. Consciousness, that divine spark that connects us all to the divine heart of creation. The records are a mirror, reflecting the divine potential within each soul, urging us to remember that we are not separate from God, but expressions of the divine energy itself. When the individual awakens to this truth, the veils of skepticism and illusion dissolve, revealing the true nature of reality, a divine unity where every act, thought, and intention ripples through the cosmos, shaping the destiny of the soul. In closing, the records Akashicos reveal that the journey of the soul is a sacred odyssey of remembrance. They are the divine library that whispers the secrets of eternity to those willing to listen, a testament to the divine blueprint that underpins all of creation. To access these records is to step into the omnipresent now, where past, present, and future converge in the eternal dance of the soul's ascent toward divine unity. The forces that sought to silence this sacred knowledge only strengthened its truth, for the divine light within is eternal, and it shall always seek to return to its source, guided by the divine wisdom inscribed in the very fabric of the universe. Within the silent chambers of the universe's vast consciousness, the truth about our spiritual evolution often lies veiled beneath layers of illusion and deception. The Akashic records, as I have seen through divine inspiration and guided visions, reveal the unalterable blueprint of the soul's eternal journey, an intricate dance of karma, reincarnation, and divine purpose. Yet in the unfolding of this sacred tapestry there are forces powerful, clandestine entities that have sought to obscure these divine truths, fearing the awakening of humanity's divine potential. It is to these hidden machinations that we now turn, for the knowledge of why certain forces attempted to silence Cayce's revelations is essential for understanding the true nature of our collective spiritual evolution. The teachings I received through the divine visions and the records point to an era long past, Atlantis, where the collective consciousness of humanity reached heights of spiritual knowledge and technological mastery. Yet, with this great awakening came a perilous imbalance. The soul, in its pursuit of divine unity, seeks harmony and understanding, but there are those among us who, driven by fear and the desire for control, sought to harness the spiritual powers for their own gain. These entities, whether incarnate or non-incarnate, perceived Cayce's messages, those revealing the divine blueprint and the potential for individual and collective enlightenment, as a threat to their dominion rooted in ignorance and materialism. Within the records, it is written that the true power of the soul lies in understanding its divine origin, its connection to the Christ consciousness that dwells within every human. But the forces opposed to this awakening knew that if humanity were to remember its divine heritage, the structures of control and fear would be destabilized. They feared that the awakening of the consciousness, fueled by the revelations of Cayce, would dismantle their carefully constructed illusions of separation, material dominance, and spiritual ignorance. For when the soul awakens to its divine purpose, the old regimes of fear and control lose their grip, and the divine light begins to shine through the veils of darkness. The conspiracy to suppress Cayce's teachings was not merely about censorship, it was about maintaining a status quo, an illusion of separation and limited awareness. The same entities that once thrived on the ignorance of Atlantis, those who sought to enslave the consciousness of the masses, continue to influence the currents of history. They understand that the awakening of the collective consciousness, guided by truths in the records, threatens their dominion. Therefore, they have attempted to discredit, silence, and distort these divine messages, fearing that the revelation of reincarnation, karma, and the divine blueprint would ignite a spiritual revolution. It is vital to recognize that much of this suppression was carried out through controlled channels, media, academia, and political institutions, designed to foster fear and doubt around these divine truths. They sought to make Cayce's teachings appear as mere mysticism or pseudoscience, thus diverting the soul's yearning for divine understanding into superficial pursuits. The effort was to keep humanity tethered to material illusions, blind to the divine within and the eternal nature of the soul's journey. Yet despite these efforts, the divine plan cannot be thwarted. As the records reveal, the soul's quest for truth is imprinted in its very essence. The divine blueprint is resilient, encoded in the very fabric of our consciousness. The suppression only served to deepen the importance of these teachings, causing them to stir beneath the surface, waiting for the right time for divine awakening to surge forth once more. The implications of this conspiracy extend beyond mere censorship. They point to a fundamental battle between ignorance and enlightenment, a struggle between forces that seek to keep humans asleep in fear, and those that strive to awaken them to their divine potential. The suppression of Cayce's revelations was, in essence, an attack on the soul's right to freely access its divine memories stored in the Akashic records. It was an attempt to prevent the remembrance of the divine blueprint, an essential step on the path to Christ consciousness, where the individual recognizes their divine origin and awakens to their spiritual purpose. As we delve deeper into this hidden history, we must understand that the divine plan involves the awakening of the collective consciousness, an awakening that cannot be permanently suppressed. The divine power within each soul resonates through the veils of illusion, whispering truths of reincarnation, karmic cycles, and the divine potential inherent in every human being. The teachings of Cayce, encoded in the records, are like a beacon, calling forth the remembrance of our divine heritage, urging the soul to reclaim its rightful place in the divine hierarchy. In this current age, the suppression is gradually lifting, as more individuals awaken to the truth of their divine nature and their interconnectedness through the universal consciousness. The divine blueprint, once obscured, now begins to shine through the cracks of illusion, illuminating the path toward spiritual sovereignty. The forces of darkness may have attempted to silence the revelations, but they serve only to underscore their importance, fueling the collective desire to uncover, understand, and embody the Christ consciousness. In conclusion, the clandestine efforts to hide Cayce's teachings are a testament to the potency of divine truth. They reveal the ongoing spiritual battle, one fought not with weapons but with the awakening of consciousness and the remembrance of the divine within. The records affirm that no darkness can extinguish the inherent light of the soul, for it is rooted in eternity. As seekers of truth, it is our divine right and responsibility to pierce through these veils of deception, to remember the divine blueprint encoded within us, and to walk boldly on the path of spiritual awakening, knowing that the divine plan is unalterable and that our collective journey toward Christ consciousness is predestined to unfold. The truth of why certain forces sought to silence Cayce's divine revelations is now revealed. It was their fear of the awakening of humanity's divine origin, a fear rooted in the loss of control and the illusion of separation. But the divine blueprint, as the records reveal, is eternal, and the soul's journey, guided by divine love, is unstoppable. In the stillness of the cosmic night, the records whisper truths that transcend time and space, revealing the eternal dance of the soul's journey. The suppression of divine knowledge, an effort born from fear and illusion, has long sought to obscure the shining light of truth that resides within each of us. Yet as the records reveal, the divine blueprint engraved into the fabric of our existence cannot be silenced forever. Now we stand at a pivotal moment, a luminous awakening of collective consciousness, where the veils of illusion are lifting, and the true legacy of the soul begins to emerge into the light of understanding. The past echoes with stories of civilizations lost and found, Atlantean remnants of advanced spiritual wisdom, where the soul's quest for unity with the divine was once radiant and clear. The records tell us that at the height of Atlantean civilization, the human consciousness had reached extraordinary heights. But with such power came the peril of misuse, and the forces of darkness, driven by fear of the divine within, sought to manipulate and distort this knowledge. The fall of Atlantis was, in essence, a dissonance, an attempt to suppress the divine spark, to fracture the unity of the soul's connection with the source. Yet even in the depths of that decline, the soul's longing for truth endured. Today this longing manifests anew, resurrected through the collective awakening, a renaissance of spiritual understanding that refuses to be silenced. The records reveal that the awakening is not accidental, but the fulfillment of a divine promise, that the soul in its infinite wisdom seeks to remember its origins, its divine heritage, and its destined unity with Christ consciousness. This awakening is the culmination of eons of spiritual evolution, an unfolding process guided by the divine plan, wherein each individual soul is called to reconnect with the infinite. Why is this resurgence happening now? The records indicate that the cosmic cycles have aligned, creating the perfect conditions for humanity's spiritual renaissance. The divine forces, those eternal currents of truth, are stirring within the collective consciousness, awakening dormant memories of unity, love, and divine purpose. The suppression of truth was and remains a temporary veil, a necessary phase designed to test the strength of the soul's resolve. It is in the crucible of silence and illusion that the soul's resilience is forged, preparing it for the ultimate revelation, that the divine light within is indestructible. In this moment of awakening, the divine power of the soul begins to shine through the cracks of illusion. The records reveal that the shift is not merely intellectual, but deeply spiritual, a rekindling of the Christ consciousness within each heart. This consciousness is the divine blueprint's ultimate expression, where the individual recognizes their divine origin and their inherent connection to all of creation. As the soul awakens, it begins to remember its eternal journey through the Akashic records, the universal library that holds every thought, deed, and soul's destiny. The records also shed light on the importance of embracing this divine knowledge, not as a mere intellectual exercise, but as a profound recognition of the divine power that resides within. The soul's journey is written in the Akashic records, a sacred script that encodes the lessons, challenges, and triumphs of every incarnation. It is here that the true legacy of humanity lies, the eternal truth that the soul is an immortal spark of the divine, continuously evolving, seeking to embody love, wisdom, and divine harmony. The suppression of this truth was rooted in fear, fear of the awakening of the divine within the masses, fear of losing control over the spiritual evolution of humanity. The records reveal that those who attempted to silence Cayce's revelations, and others like him, were driven by this primordial fear. Yet the divine plan cannot be thwarted. Just as the dawn inevitably follows the night, so too does the awakening of consciousness illuminate the darkness of illusion. The divine blueprint is etched into the very fabric of the universe, impossible to erase, impossible to suppress forever. Now, as the collective consciousness rises, the true power of spiritual knowledge is awakening within us all. It is a call to recognize the divine within, the Christ consciousness that resides in the heart of every soul. The records reveal that this awakening is a return to our divine origin, a remembrance of the unity we share with all life, and a step toward manifesting the divine potential that lies dormant within. This is the divine legacy, the truth of who we are, beyond the illusions of separation and duality. The records whisper that each soul is a divine spark, a fragment of the infinite light that seeks expression through us. When we embrace this divine inheritance, we tap into an eternal well of power, power to heal, to transform, and to elevate consciousness. The journey culminates in a profound realization that the divine knowledge has always been accessible, waiting for us to open our hearts and minds to it. The suppression was merely a cosmic test, an opportunity for the soul to demonstrate resilience and faith in its divine nature. Now the awakening is unstoppable. The divine blueprint is unfolding before us, illuminating the path back to unity, love, and divine wisdom. As we stand on this threshold, I urge you to remember that the divine power is not distant or separate. It resides within you, waiting to be awakened and fully embraced. The records reveal that the true spiritual power lies in recognizing your divine origin and aligning your life with the universal truth. The journey of the soul is eternal, and the divine blueprint within is imprinted with the promise of enlightenment, harmony, and ultimate reunion with the source. Let us step forward with courage and faith, knowing that the divine truth cannot be silenced forever. The awakening is here, an invitation to remember your divine heritage and to activate the Christ consciousness within. The universe is calling us home to the divine legacy written in the very fabric of our being, a legacy of love, wisdom, and eternal life. And in this sacred realization, we find that the divine truth is not merely something to seek, but something to remember, an eternal flame that lights the way back to our true selves. Remember, dear soul, that the divine blueprint woven into your very essence is eternal and unbreakable. The forces of illusion and suppression may have tried to conceal this sacred truth, but the light of awakening continues to rise within each of us, illuminating the path home to our divine origins. As you step forward into this sacred journey, know that the power to unlock the depths of your spiritual potential resides within your own heart, waiting for your conscious remembrance. Embrace the divine within, awaken the Christ consciousness, and align yourself with the eternal flow of love and wisdom that guides us all. I invite you now, share your insights, subscribe for more sacred revelations, and spread this divine truth with others. For together, we are awakening to the eternal truth that has always been within us. Let us walk this sacred path side by side, shining brightly as beacons of divine light in the world.